Hello, my name is Travis Allen. First, we give a hand to our other two competitors up here. These are a pair of great guys, and I'd like to start off by telling everyone here in the room that you're very, very lucky. Quick show of hands, who's a Republican in the room? There's among friends, okay. I'd like to give you all a hand. And the reason is because we're right, and we know we're right. I have very good news for you. Whichever one of us advances past June 5th is going to win the general election. This district is 43% Republican and 32% Democrat. That means that whoever wins June 5th, you have sent to Sacramento. There's a reason I'm up here. There's a reason that I'm running for the 72nd district, and I'll tell you why. I'm not a career politician. I'm an investment advisor. I've been living in Orange County for almost 20 years. I've been in business for 16 of those years as an investment advisor and owned my company right here in Orange County for 11 years. The average age of my client, I look around this room and all of you could be my clients, although some of you are a little bit too young. Average age is 62 or older, and the average tenure of my clients with me is over 10 years. We specialize in conservative wealth management using professional money managers in very conservative allocations. The bottom line is I don't like to lose money. So many of my clients come from the greatest generation. I see there might be one or two from the greatest generation here, and I believe in this. So as I've been managing money over the last 16 years, I've been paying attention not only to our federal government, which hopefully will change in November, right? The latest poll came out and actually showed Romney healthfully ahead, which is fantastic news. But that's the national stage. What we really care about here in California, what affects our life the very most, is what Sacramento has been doing to us over and over and over again. Now, that might sound like some rhetoric, but let me tell you the actual facts. So I think that we would all agree there's problems with Sacramento, right? There's career politicians there, there's entrenched special interests. We can't seem to get anything done. But let me tell you what this actually adds up to. California has the second highest unemployment in the country. Right now our unemployment stands at over 11%. So we're nearly the worst in the entire country. Let me tell you why we are. By the way, fair disclaimer, I love facts and figures. When all else fails, go to the facts, and you know where the truth lies. California has the second highest personal income tax. California has the sixth highest business tax. California has the second highest gasoline tax. And California has the highest capital gains tax in the entire nation. It gets worse than this, though. This tax burden is not equally shared by all. California has 37 million residents, citizens, people that live here. Of those 37 million, only 144,000 pay over 50% of the total tax. So think about that for a moment. These are the people that are our most productive citizens, right? The real engines of our economy. For instance, the guys that just made Facebook. And everyone heard the Facebook company's going to IPO?
Yes.
These are the 144,000. But we're taxing them exorbitantly, more than almost any other state in the country. And what is this causing them to do? I'll tell you. Between 1992 and 2008, we lost 869,000 premium taxpayers in California. These were taxpayers that were paying more than the average share. They went to Florida. They went to Arizona. They went to Texas. They went to Oregon. I think if you think of all of your friends, you might know a couple friends that have actually done this as well in the last 16 years. This is important. Let me tell you why it's important. In the year that these people left, they took their tax revenue with them. They didn't pay it to us here in California. In the year that they left, that single year they left, they took $44 billion in tax revenue with them. I don't know about you, but to me that's a large number. But it gets worse. Because all of those people that left, they didn't come back. They're still in Florida, Texas, Hawaii, Oregon, you name it. And so we didn't just lose their tax revenue one year, but we lost for every successive year that they've not been gone. If you add up all those numbers, it's over $500 billion that they have not paid into our state. That's a huge number. Let me put $500 billion in context. Today, as we sit here, as a matter of fact, I was a little bit late coming in this evening. The reason was I was just in Sacramento this morning, and I just flew in right now for this forum. And I was talking to a lot of lawmakers out there, and I was saying, look, we have some real structural problems. You might have heard there's a huge deficit of $16 billion and a structural deficit of $35 billion. But that's peanuts. Because our California debt is $361 billion today. But think about this. If we had had that $500 billion from all those 869,000 people that left our state because we were taxing them to death, that $500 billion would pay off our state debt entirely. And we'd have $139 billion sitting in a rainy day fund for us. So in closing, my name is Travis Allen. The reason I'm running for the Assembly is very straightforward. I want to lower taxes and stop the tax increases. I want to roll back the burdensome business regulations. It makes it so hard for companies to do business here in California. I'll give you one last example that hopefully hits home for a couple people here. One of our largest employers here in Orange County and in California is Boeing. Boeing used to be the largest employer in the state. 12 years ago, Boeing had 44,000 employees in California. I'm not even talking about contractors, just straight Boeing employees. And these are good jobs. Average salary, $95,000 plus benefits. These are the kind of jobs you can raise a family on, buy a home on, all of these things, have a good life on. But they don't have 44,000 employees in California anymore. No, in 12 short years, Boeing only has 20,000 employees here in California. They have dropped by over 50% their employment in California. But here's the real kicker. The real kicker is Boeing's not facing difficulties. Boeing is growing nationwide. They're bigger today than they were 12 years ago. But guess what? The jobs aren't here. They put the jobs in all of the other states because we've essentially said, look, we don't want your business. I'm going to Sacramento to provide a very clear message, which is we are open for business. We want your jobs. We want your taxpayers. We want your companies. We want you to locate right here in California. And to do that, we're going to roll back our tax increases. We're going to roll back our burdensome business regulations. And we're going to go out there and actively seek these companies and take care of the ones that have already been here for years and years and years and done us so much good service and say, look, we appreciate you. My name is Travis Allen. Thank you so much for your support.
Be your highest priority in the state assembly, should you be elected?
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay. 2 minutes.
My biggest priority, like I said before, is jobs and the economy. I'm going to focus on job growth. Like I said, I'm a job creator. I know the issues and the regulations, the things that are actually stopping us from having the capability of doing that. You know, when you're running for office and just like I've learned on the city council, you know, you can't be everything to everybody. You try to focus on a couple things that you can really make a difference, and you spend a lot of time trying to do that. And so my focus again will be on jobs and the economy. Thank you.
The answer is that our first and foremost priority in this state, it's unthinkable that we have an 11% unemployment rate, the second worst in the nation. Look around, we live in paradise here. How is this possible? We must create jobs in the state. We don't create jobs with Obama stimulus. We don't create jobs by the government taking money out of your pocket, which you're going to go use to spend on somebody else anyway, right? You're going to go buy things with it, supporting jobs. We don't stimulate the economy by having the government spend your money. Instead, what we do is we lower taxes, we lower business regulations, so companies want to come here and do business. And, did I just finish that? And as a final note, Rick Perry, terrible presidential candidate. Couldn't remember 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 agencies, right? However, he was a phenomenal governor of Texas, and the reason he did wonderful things in their economy. Their economy is on fire. And everybody says, oh, it's because Texas has oil. Well, actually, that's not the answer. 4% of the Texas economy is attributable to oil. The other 96% is due to their pro-jobs, pro-growth, low-tax policy. And that's what we need to bring back to California. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to skip the second question because I think you've alluded to that pretty much in your answers to the first one. But we want to get hearing what you might have to say about the third question we have on here, which is how we work to get legislation passed with the overwhelming Democrat majority in Sacramento.
I guess I will stand. I actually addressed this a little bit in my opening comments, is that, like I said, a couple different components to be able to do this is, one, you've got to have the ability to influence the caucus. You know, when you go up there, you're a part of a Republican caucus, there's a leadership structure, and you know, when you get up there, much like Travis, I've been up there a bunch of times myself, you see folks that are just beleaguered and they're not willing to fight the fight anymore. And so when you look at that, you say, well, what is the problem there? You see 23-year-old staff members called legislative aides crafting the positions for our party, and then you see fatigue in the assembly chamber, and you don't see a lot of action to get the policies formed and be able to go forward and try to take on a position that's actually constructive. What I hope to be able to do is to work, starting within the caucus, making sure that we're not going off the reservation. You got to hold the line on taxes, and that's a base principle. No new taxes. You got to stop. That's the main reason why I'm running. The second thing is that when you're going in there, you know, like I said, you got 100% access to the caucus. You got 100% ability to influence, and you got to realize that you've got, just like on the city council, you know, I've got people like myself that are business people, and we've got people on my city council that are really good community people that don't have a professional background. We work with the people that the people elected us to work with.
In California, we have one governor. We have 40 state senators, and we have 80 assemblymen. As Republicans, we fight for what's called a super minority, which means that we fight to hang on barely to 1/3 of the votes. Once they get over that threshold, once they get just a couple of our guys over their side, we're done. You think Obamacare was bad? You've already heard my statistics of what we all sit in here in California. Once they don't even need our votes anymore, forget about lots and lots of things here in California. Forget about productivity and economic prosperity and a better future for yourselves, your family, your kids, all of these people. How do we get this done? How do we solve the problem? Let me give you the facts. Of the 40 state senators, 25 are Democrats, 15 are Republican. Of the 80 state assemblymen, 52 are Democrats and 28 are Republicans. Keep in mind that you need 41 to pass a bill. That means that we need to peel off 13 Democrats every single time we want to get something done. How do you do this? You do this with a set of core principles which do not waver, and you're resolute in those core principles, which is no new taxes, roll back business regulations, invite companies to be here, stay here, bring their jobs here, and taxpayers do the exact same. And here's how you get those 13 votes, because these votes are critical. You realize that of the 52 state assemblymen that are Democrats, they're not a monolithic body. You know, as Republicans, we watch the news and we pay attention and we see things clearly. There's a fun saying that I really like, which is, if you're young and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. But if you're old and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. So it's incumbent upon us to use our brains. Thank you very much. And here's how we use our brains. I've been in business for 16 years. I've dealt with thousands and thousands of clients, people that come in to see me, and employees and all of this. And not everyone always sees your vision, but that doesn't mean you change your vision. If you're right, you're right. It's as simple as that. You realize that these Democrats, these 50 Democrats, some of them are great people. They just happen to be wrong. They are not a monolithic body. Not all of them are pro-labor or pro-union. Not all of them are radical environmentalists. As a matter of fact, some of them are actually pro-business. So in any situation, when you need a consensus, we need 13 friends on our side. We already have 28, but we need 13 more to get those votes, to pass those bills, to roll back those taxes, to bring back those regulatory burden down so companies want to come here and stay here. Here's how you do it. You say there's 10 issues on the table before us. I think that we can work on one. And you find that one issue where you can find 13 friends across the aisle. And then you sell the heck out of them. You say, look, let's get this one issue done that we agree on. And at 52, you should be able to find 13. And you get that one issue solved. Forget about the fact that 9 of them you don't agree on. You fix that one issue. And once you work together across the aisle on one issue, they're more willing next time to come to you and say, you know what, Travis, you actually are pretty reasonable here, and we see your point. I was actually in a meeting with Jim Silva just this morning, whose seat we are going to take, or ideally with your vote, I will take in November and on June 5th. And the way Jim's passed some major bills, and the way he got them passed, they weren't just with Republicans. On every bill, he had a Democrat signing off on it. And even one of them was with Fabio Nunez, of all people. And how did he do this? with exactly the same approach I just told you about.
This is for Travis. I'm interested in what your comment was about all the people in California do not pay taxes. My opinion is everyone should pay something in taxes, and I think we would have more. We have too many paying and not enough to help us out.
First of all, what was your name?
Dolores.
Dolores, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Over 50% of Californians don't pay taxes. How is this possible? Remember, they've actually done studies of this, and they figured out that if the tax is fair and relatively low, everybody will pay it, because it's actually too much of a nuisance to go around it. But yet we employ scores of attorneys and accountants and all these things. GE, one of the biggest companies in the world, filed an 87,000-page tax return last year. Does anyone know how much tax they paid? Not a nickel. So what that says, if you have enough attorneys and enough accountants and you're smart enough, you can completely game the system and pay not a nickel in taxes. And that's just the guy, that's the really smart guys. What about all those guys that are potentially, below normal thresholds and they don't pay taxes because of whatever breaks they're getting? They're not paying their fair share. How is it possible that over 50% of the taxes are paid by only 144,000 people? Keep in mind, that's less than half of 1%. Pay more than 50% of our taxes. I'm in favor of a big idea. I'm a big idea kind of guy. I think our tax system has serious problems. I think what you actually need is a flat tax. Very simple flat tax. 6% of, thank you so much. Here's why. If you have a 6% tax on personal income, all personal income, and a 6% tax on all business revenue, you get a deduction for your home, you get a deduction for charity that you give, and you get a deduction if you're a renter. And those are your only deductions. Everybody pays a very low rate of tax, but the key is that everybody pays. And nobody tries to skirt the tax because why would you? It's 6%. So guess what? I'm very sorry for all of the accountants and attorneys in the room. I have lots that are good friends. My family law firm is about 100 years old. But I don't mind putting these guys out of business. The bottom line is we need lower taxes and a simpler tax structure so everybody pays their fair share. Thank you so much.
Jim Silva stood where you are standing and told us about going to committee, and they spent 2 hours talking about chewing gum in class. They spent another 2 hours talking about smoking on the school campus. They spent another 2 hours, and that's 6 hours of our taxpayer money that they're using in a committee, and they did not get anything at all accomplished, and the vote was coming up and they voted at midnight. And they do this specifically. How do you propose that you're going to make changes on the policies that is already set for the Senate up here?
Who wants to take it? Go ahead.
First of all, would you like all of our opinion on that?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. You know what, I said it, and this is where you start to see a little bit of difference in the candidates. You know, when you go up there, you got to stay focused on the things that you think are most important. You got to balance trying to make a relationship. You know, you can get 13 people over on your side and peel them away, as it was talked about, but maybe it's for neutering dogs. You know, the things that are of substance, taxes, you know, job creation, you know, you're not always going to be able to peel folks away. And so, you know, you've got to be able to get involved. You know, when you get up there, you have an opportunity to get onto different commissions to be able to make a difference, try to use your skill set. And then when you get in there, you got to be able to use your experience to be able to get things through. You know, the challenge with public service, and this is not a cop-out, it's the truth, is that even on city council, anybody that watches what goes on up here in Los Alamitos, you know, we get at home at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're not talking about neutering cats or anything, but not a whole lot, you know, different is that, you know, we can't control the tempo of the discussion. So part of it too, trying to be a good public servant, is you got to be patient, and you need to be able to find the times when you can actually influence. I do believe that you got to try and build some of the relationships, but you know, if you can either contribute to the discussions about smoking on campus, or you sit back and you hold your opinion where it's most meaningful. So, you know, from my time, like I said, from my perspective, it's time management, trying to be most effective. Look for associations where you can help. But remember, at the end of the day, the votes, you're in the minority. You just need to be able to influence the majority your way at the end of the day. Thank you.
Mom, would you like to say something?
Well, I don't need the mic. Oh, thank you. Well, I see that a lot from the private sector, from the industry as well. But the problem is, if you want to run the meeting, you can. If you don't have an opportunity to run the meeting, you can guide them around. And I saw that when we attend the meeting and we discuss about a subject that we have no less about, the subject that we don't have any experience, so we have nothing to offer to them. And that's why I'm not sure why Mr. Silver had a problem with that. But I attended a meeting with the state legislature and with member of Congress on education, because I am currently on the Orange County Board of Education, and we have a way to stop them. We have a way to drive them around. I learned that when you attend the meeting, when you are in the discussion with other people that they're running around, if you have a good understanding on the issue, if you have the basic, if you have your own experience on, so that you can offer them, you can cut it short, and you can come to a consensus very easy. But if you are in a meeting where they discuss about something that you have very little experience on, that you know very little on, that you just have to sit there and follow them. So I think that's the problem. I am not sure what Mr. Silver has, what was the issue at the time, but from my own experience, I didn't have a problem like that. And I don't think I'm going to experience that. Thank you.
Can I take just a quick minute? Because this is a huge thing. Would you
Did
mind?
you not respond what?
It's actually, oh no, I haven't talked on this one yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked, because this is actually one of my campaign platforms. Let me tell you why I'm actually very interested in addressing this question. I think you all know that about 2 years ago, there was a law passed that said you couldn't talk on your cell phone while you're driving, right? It was dangerous. Okay, I guess I can buy that. The same legislator that put that on the books, he's got a new one for us. It's a little bit worse than driving. His new bill is you can no longer talk on your cell phone or text while you're riding a bicycle. Really? Is that why we're paying these guys $120,000 a year? Right? This is how much you're paying these legislators, $120,000 per year. They get a mileage allowance, which is more than paying for a car. They get gold-plated health insurance. Raise your hand if someone's paying for your health insurance, right? There's a couple lucky people in the room. This is what we're paying them up there to do. I was just there this morning, and one of the most egregious things that I had heard was there was a new bill, put forth by a Democrat, as you might guess, to post. Is everyone familiar with McDonald's? How sometimes they'll have a playground attached to the McDonald's? He said there's a new bill that overwhelmingly passed that now all businesses that have a playground on their premises have to post when that playground is scheduled to be cleaned, conspicuously. Okay, I suppose. The question came up though is, do we have to post this on public playgrounds as well? And the answer is, oh no, of course not, because that would be far too expensive and we don't have the manpower for that. But yet it's okay to saddle businesses with all these extra regulations. And it's okay to saddle your individuals that live in your great state. It's okay to take away their freedoms. And maybe texting on a bicycle is not a big deal to you, but through time these things begin to add up. I advocate for a part-time legislature. Everyone in this room should get my mailings. And you will in a couple days, and the latest one's coming out is on a part-time legislature. Here's the bottom line. The legislators go up there for 7 months of the year. 3 or 4 days a week. We pay them $120,000 a year to pass these silly regulations and to raise our taxes. Enough. Let's let them meet for a couple months out of the year. I don't care where they vote. They don't have to vote from Sacramento. They can vote from their house on their computer if they want to. But I don't want to pay them for their time to raise my taxes and to put more regulations that are only driving companies further and further from California. Let's hold them accountable, and let's start today.
My 405 Tea Party patriots about a month and a half ago made the same statement. You know, the legislature, you know, back through actually when Brown did his dad actually did his tour duty through the 60s, that is when they actually changed California from being a part-time legislature to a full-time legislature. So, you know, and they do that by taking the legislative calendar and they keep filling it up with things that require the legislature to stay through, not just the budget cycle periods. So, you know, look, that's a great idea. And I think, again, you know, this is the balance. You know, my kids, when they come home and they talk about people wanting to run for ASB president at school, and I said, well, what are the issues that they're running on? And they're like, well, you know, they're going to let everybody leave at lunch. And, and I said, well, who won? The person that lets the kids leave at lunch, or the ones that are saying that maybe they would be able to have longer classes or have teachers be required to stay after school to tutor? Which makes sense, right? Well, the kids that won the, hey, we will get the school to let us out at lunch. And, you know, we all want to feel good, and we want to take maybe perspectives that aren't realistic today and say, hey, that's great, I'm 100% for that. But I think in 6 years going up there, I'm really going to focus on the short term. My kids are going to get out of college, and they need a job. My company wants to thrive here, and I want it to stay in California. The legislature, I mean, if we're going to switch the entire composite of the California State Legislature, I don't think we're being realistic. And I think, again, it comes back to, have you served on the city council or board of education? Do you have the experience to be realistic? And what can you get done while you're in office? You know, you're not going to sell the go home at lunch thing and be able to go up there and do it. We're in the minority. We can't even get votes to save taxes. So, you know, great idea. And I'd be for it. If it ever comes before me in 6 years, you got my commitment. I'm going to vote for part-time legislature. Thank you.
Well, about 6 months ago, I already signed a petition. Somebody circulated a petition for part-time state legislature, and I already signed that. I don't believe in full-time because, like David said, that you know they work for a number of months and they have like a 2 or 3 months vacation, time off, get paid. I don't think we need to pay for that, and I don't think that I don't think we need a full-time people like Troy say that you know they spend full time over there and making young regulation that tighten our hand from doing business. So I don't think that's a good idea. But we need to have part-time legislature. Thank you.
So registered nurses are an important category, and there's a lot of different ones that you can take a look at. But you know, the issue with registered nurses is there's not a shortage of patients. So the supply and demand is there's patients out there that need help. It comes down to the service delivery model that we have in healthcare. And you know, even if you look at the latest budget with the $16 billion deficit, one of the first areas that Jerry Brown's going after is the home health care. So if you look at, you know, one, can you get more registered nurses in? Look, my cousin goes to school at Cal State Long Beach to be a nurse. That program's impacted. He had to wait 1.5 years to get in. People in my city that are nurses at Los Alamos Medical Center teach over at Cypress College, their nursing program, and they don't have enough teachers because they don't have enough basically resources to be able to provide more classes. So the problem with the registered nurses is not that the market is out there and that they, you know, that there's not a market for them. The issue is there's not enough institutions to be able to provide a process to be able to deliver more nurses. So, and that kind of goes back to our facilities that we have in the state. Even if you look at like the state universities, UC schools, any of these, a lot of this, you know, we haven't built new universities for 20, 30 years. So, you know, if you look at this, you know, there are investments that are worth making, you know, in our state. You know, you get something as ludicrous as the high-speed rail that, you know, you're sitting there and you're looking at this sort of as an investment. You look at something where universities, where we really have a aging population that we need to be able to provide a skill set to be able to take care of. we don't have it. And that's why you see a lot of those jobs that we're actually having to find people for, we have to go outside the state to bring those in. So, my perspective would be, again, you got to focus at the root cause of that problem. And by the way, it's not just nurses affected by this. I'm in the technology business too. Thank God they shut off the H-1B visas and bringing people over here, taking away jobs, but that was because they made justifications that there wasn't enough technical people in the workforce. So it's happening in healthcare, in technology, in manufacturing, all of these, and it comes back to the state addressing this at the foundation, which is to be able to provide the infrastructure for us to be able to grow. Thank you.
With all due respect, every other state is solving it.
Well, like I said, if you were going to talk Texas, they actually have companies relocating there. The revenue starts, they start hiring people, people have income, they pay taxes, revenue goes up, they provide more services. That's where this is broke, and that's why I'm focused on my campaign is jobs in the economy, is that you got to get back to the root cause of what the problem is and really attack it there.
On the issues of the speed rail in California, we would like to know whether you support it or reject it, against it, and why.
How about I open that one up? One of my opponents is sitting here before. He was actually a champion of high-speed rail, but I don't hold that against him because he's seen the error of his ways and now he understands it for what it is. When high-speed rail comes up, there's one word that I want you to think of, and I probably think that you've already thought of it. Boondoggle.
Yeah.
This is a terrible way to spend our money. If you want a train, you can get a train. If you need to get someplace, you can use a car. Spending billions and billions of dollars just because the federal government has given us $3 billion in free money, that's insanity. I run a business. California should be run like a business. If you have a project to do, it needs to pencil out. High-speed rail doesn't pencil out almost anywhere in the world that it is. That means it doesn't take in enough money to pay for itself. So why the heck would we want it if we have alternate forms of transportation? You can take, for anyone that doesn't believe in the free market, I don't believe in ultimate laissez-faire. Everyone does what they wish, and then we'll have robber barons, right? And there clearly needs to be some basic parameters. But within those parameters, the free market works wonders. We have something spectacular that I take advantage of all the time. It's called deregulation of airlines. I think I paid, what, 150 bucks? 200 bucks, something like that, for a round trip ticket up to Sacramento. That's cheap. The reason it's cheap is because the government's not in the way telling these guys what they can charge. They get to compete against each other. And guess what? When you compete against somebody else, if one person's offering a good or service at a higher price than another, well, guess who gets more business? The one who's offering the better product or the cheaper product at the same quality. That is the essence of our market. That's why when you take a look at high-speed rail, you have to ask yourself, wait a second. Just because the federal government's giving us some free money, does that give us license to go blow it? Absolutely not. You have to think like a businessman and say, if the project doesn't pencil out, we have no business there. Thank you so much.
Next.
Well, I'm from the private sector, so I'm fully in agreement with Travis on that. The high-speed rail, if we have the need for, the private sector will do it. And if they don't do it, we don't have a need for it. That means it's not a good thing to do. Yeah. Thank you.
Just a very short, easy answer is I don't support high-speed rail, but there's a lot of infrastructure projects and a lot of things that that California does need to look at. And when you can't balance your checking account, which is the general fund, and provide the basic services, you really need to kind of hold back before you start a project that doesn't pencil out. And so, just to kind of keep it short and on point, I absolutely wouldn't support the high-speed rail. I've been working with Diane Harkey, who's an assemblyman down in Dana Point, and she's one of the most adamant supporters against, or opponents against, the high-speed rail. And it probably is from a perspective of not just not supporting transportation or rail. I don't think that's what we need to vilify here, because we do need better transportation solutions, but we need solutions that have actually been penciled out and ones that we can afford. There's other projects out there, the water project up in the Delta area, and some very important projects that would be infrastructure projects that I would support. And and that's my position on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to mention something here, just out of curiosity. Well, I've been here as a voting adult over 50 years. And I remember when Governor Pat Brown built or promoted the construction of the California aqueduct system. He got water flowing up and down the state of California. His son wants to better him by getting a train up and down California. I think it's an ego trip more than anything else. And we got to talk about it. Just plain ego trip by wasteful, high-spending politicians.
I want to know where that free money comes from when our government is so far in debt anyway. I don't see any way for that coming in.
Are you talking state or federal or both?
Both.
There's an extra $300 million from the feds to the state.
Yeah.
Where's the feds going to get it when they're so far in debt?
I don't know about you all, but there's a saying that I've always kind of liked, which is, there's no such thing as a free lunch,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
If you get that free chicken dinner, you know they're going to sell you that timeshare right after. Let me tell you, I think the Chinese can be wonderful people. I love Chinese food. I've been there. It's a nice place. They have a lot of money on their hands. But just because they want to give us a lot of money really cheaply, doesn't make very good sense for us, does it? I'm looking around the room here, and I'm guessing that a number of you are relatively comfortable. You have a good life. You have a decent little pile of savings that allows you the ability to be retired and actually enjoy your golden years as much as your bodies allow you to, right? By the way, that's kind of a myth sometimes, isn't it, the golden years, right? It's every day we work for it. And the answer is with spending. The money doesn't come out of thin air. We borrow it. The federal government borrows it. The state government borrows it. And right now, interest rates are very low. But what happens when interest rates go higher? I'm an investment guy. The yield on the 10-year treasury is 2%. The yield on the 30-year treasury is about 3%. That's cheap money. So we can borrow 30-year money federally at 3%. That's very cheap. But guess what? When you owe so much money relative to your GDP, sooner or later those Chinese wake up.
Yeah.
They say, gee, America's pretty strong, but they owe a lot of money. I don't think I want to buy me their money at 3%. Maybe we'll charge them 4 or 5%. When that percentage rate goes up just a couple of points, forget about defense expenditures, let alone Obamacare. This stuff goes out the window. And this is what people don't pay attention to. That's why I think at the state level, we have an incredible ability with the proper leadership, which we clearly do not have today, to really clean up a mess, get rid of our debt, welcome back in the taxpayers, broaden the tax base, and see true productivity, not because we're spending somebody else's money, borrowing to spend, to stimulate, right? But because we're growing it here at home organically, because we've lowered everyone's taxes, because we've made it easier to do business here in California. And that's exactly what I plan to do.